Hello, I am the teen librarian at Central. My name is Julie, and today I am going to show you how to do kind of a 3D art project. We're going to do two different stars. One is the 6-pointed star, and the other is the 4-pointed star. We're going to start with this one because it's the simplest. And so there's not a single curve in any of these, and I'm going to show you how to do it with straight lines. So if you picked up the packet, you should have some sheets of cardstock. If you would like to use some scrap paper first, that's fine, just to kind of get all your mistakes out. We also included, in case you didn't have one at home, a protractor that's printable and you can cut that out, and a ruler in case you don't have one. But if you have an actual ruler and you or an older sibling has a protractor at home, you can use that instead. But this one works just fine if you need it. So all you need to provide is essentially a pencil. We also provided a Sharpie marker for you. And if you have a nice white eraser, will come in handy. So the first one will be the 4-pointed star. So I'm going to show you how to do this one. And some of the beginning of this one is actually going to be useful for the 6-pointed star. So grab a sheet of cardstock, and if you'd like, you can do this on just regular scrap paper for the time being, and then use your cardstock after you have done it once and you know a little better what you're doing. That way, any mess ups, don't worry about it, it's scrap paper and you can throw it away. So this is a normal 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I am going to line this up at the 11 inch, and it's 11 inches, and half of 11 inches is 5.5. So I'm going to put a little mark right there. So I'm trying to find the midpoint on the long sides of the sheet. And so we're going to go over here, flip it around, and again, finding that 11 inches should line up with that 0 mark at the other end. And then 5.5, put a little mark. All right. And then, so if you did use the cutout ruler, you want to find something with a nice straight edge to use to make these lines. It could be anything. It could be another thick sheet of paper, even the edge of a cardstock where you didn't have to cut it yourself. I'm going to use a ruler for this one. So I'm going to find those 2 marks on each side, and I'm going to draw a line through them. So basically I'm drawing a line to each mark, cutting the paper in half. All right, so and then we want to find the midpoint of this line. So this is 8.5 inches. And so we'll line that up at 8.5 inches. A half of 8.5 would be 4 1/4. So we're going to put a little mark right there. All right, so now that we found our midpoint, we want to make another line that cuts through the midpoint at a 90-degree angle. So that is where your protractor comes in handy. And you know how I said to cut it off right there? Well, I know this one's kind of worn a little bit, but you're going to put that little bubble at the bottom right at your midpoint, and you're going to line up these 2 sides right here along your line. Once you have it right where you want it, you're going to mark the 90-degree mark because we're cutting it into fourths. So a circle is 360 degrees, and if you divide that by 4, you get 90 degrees. So 1 doesn't help us because we need it on the other side. So we're going to flip our paper around just because it's easier. We're going to do the same thing. Line that little midpoint bubble up with your midpoint little pencil mark, and then line up these 2 edges here, the 2 ends, the 2 lines along your line. And again, find that 90-degree mark and put a little pencil mark, and then you can set that aside. And then you're going to take your ruler and you're going to line up those 2 90-degree marks, and that should make a line that intersects with that midpoint in the middle. All right, so you have basically a sheet of cardstock and the paper is cut into fourths. So the next thing that you want to do is we're going to make this as big as we can. So 8 inches, we're going to make the math really easy. So it's 8.5 inches wide. That's the biggest, or rather the smallest part of the paper. So we're going to take that and we're going to go to 8 inches because it's easy to divide. So, and you're going to mark a 1/2 inch along each of these lines, both up, both down, both up, down, and the right and the left side. So the easiest way to do it, if we're going to go 8 wide, that's 4 inches on this side, 4 inches on this side, 4 inches on that side, 4 inches on that side. So what you can do is line up your ruler along one of those lines at the 4-inch mark, and then mark your little tick marks along that line every 1/2 inch. All right, so once you have your 1/2 inch pieces marked, technically past that little bit on the end, if you wanted to, you could erase it, but you don't have to erase it now, and you can kind of erase it at the end. If you marked past that 8 inch or the 4 inch mark on each side, you might want to erase them now because they'll confuse you. So here, I'm just going to put a little erasure mark so I know not to connect anything further there on the line. And that should do it. So here's where you draw a bunch of lines to make that really cool curvy effect. So what you're going to do is we're going to grab, and you can really start from any end point on this little cross here. I'm going to grab the last dot right here, and I'm going to connect it to this dot right here, so the first one on the adjacent line. All right, so there you go. You connected the last one here to the first one here. We're going to continue that pattern. We're going to go to the second to last one here and go to the second one right here. And you're going to keep going. The third one here to the third one here. And then the fourth one to the fourth one, and so on. So when you're done doing that, it's going to look something like this. And I'm going to show you so you can see it a little better. This one was done in ink, so you can see it. And after you've done that, you can just repeat that pattern. Turn your paper, and you're going to line up this tick mark right here, the last one again, with the first tick mark right there. And you continue it for all 4 quarters. And you'll see it looks something like this. And then you can fill it in with your Sharpie marker. And if you start in the middle with one square, coloring that in, and just checkerboard it out, every other one, it gives this nice little 3D effect to it. Okay, for this one, we're going to make a 3D looking 6-pointed star like this. And to start this one, it's similar to the way in which we started our 4-pointed star previously. So we're going to take a sheet of paper, and you find the midpoint here, put a little tick mark, and since this is 8.5 by 11, half would be about 5.5 inches. And same thing over here, put a little tick mark at that 5.5 inch mark. Draw a line with your ruler, and then, since it's 8.5, 4 1/4 would be the midpoint, and you put a mark right there. So this is kind of your structure, your bones of it, and this is where it's different. So using your protractor, again, that little tick mark is going to be lined up with that little bubble, and then the 2 lines here will be lined up with your line on your paper. Once you have it lined up, we want to have a 6-pointed star, so the whole 360 of a circle divided by 6 is 60 degrees. So we're going to make a little mark at 60 degrees on this side, and another one on this side. So depending on which way you're measuring from, 60 goes here on the top, 60 goes here on the bottom. If yours only goes one way, which I doubt, 60 plus 60 is 120. So you'd be going every 60 degrees. And flip it around, and you're going to mark them on this side as well. So you're going to go with the 60 degrees or the 120 and put a little mark right there. Set that aside. And then you are going to use your ruler here and line up those two opposite points. They should pass through that midpoint for you. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge because we don't need to go all the way to the edge. You want to go at least 4 inches on both sides. You can erase the rest if you go over, don't worry. All right, so just as you did before, you can mark this every 1/4 inch for 4 inches down each of these 6 lines. Okay, so once you have every 1/2 inch marked on each one of these lines up to 4 inches, you can, if you want, you can erase that little bit past that last hash mark just so you don't connect anything further, and you can go back and erase a little better later, so don't worry. Tiny little bit. Okay. So we're going to do that same concept if you did the 4-pointed star, and we're going to connect, and I'm going to start from this side. I'm going to connect that last dot here to the first little hash mark here, so on the adjacent side. And then I'm going to grab that second to last hash mark and line it up with the second hash mark there. And then the third with the third, and so on and so forth until you're lining up the last one here, or I'm sorry, the first one here with the last one there. So it's going to come out like that. And then you're going to repeat this for this one, this one, this one, and all of them. And then if you'd like to go over it in marker, it will look like this. And if you fill it in with a checkerboard pattern, I would recommend you start from the center and then go every other one with your Sharpie marker, and it will look like that. And so the neat thing is you can change the dimensions of these. You can decide how much you want each length to be of your little arm of your star. You can decide to do every 1/4 of an inch if you would like, and do it much more detailed than this. And you can layer them out. You can have them, the stars just going all around your page, and do a bunch of little ones. Anyway, lots of neat things that you can do with this. And thank you for joining me today.